Hey, what's up, everybody? Fred and Minnick here, and we're well into 2023. I have got a new tasting format that I'm doing. I'll be rolling out that here shortly. The members have already seen some inside look into it, but basically, I'm going back to my old ways of tasting 3 times, much like I did in the top 100. So I hired someone to pour blind samples for me. So you got some tastings coming from me, both in the written form and video form, coming up very soon. But before we jump into that, I wanted to take a look back at my top 100 and highlight a few bottles that I felt like deserve some significant recognition and give some insight as to what I might have been thinking during that blind tasting that I did, that 3.5 hour long blind tasting of 100 bourbons, ryes, American single malts, and blends of straights, and a few other things. And including some rice whiskeys, by the way. One of those, as I'm taking a look at this list, I realize this is the most available of everything that finished in the top 10. And that is the Booker's Kentucky Tea Batch. So that would be came in at number 6. It's the Booker's 2022-3, the Kentucky Tea Batch. It clocks in at 126.5 proof. It's available nationally. And so I'll say that again. It's available nationally. You might have to look a little harder to get this bottle now, because obviously it's been a few months since it was released, and also it's had some nice accolades to it, to include finishing number 6 on my top 100. And so it is the most available out there. Now, some questions have came up from time to time, like, why do you taste things that the ordinary person can't get? And it really does come down to I want to release the best whiskey list, like the best tasting whiskey list. I'm not just trying to put out stuff that's out there that's available. And if you take up my top 100 in its entirety, which you'll find a link to that in the description, if you take a look at that, you'll see that a lot of highly allocated products did not do well. The Van Winkles, Pappy Van Winkles, the 15, 20, 23 year, did not even make the list. And yes, I did taste them all. You can go see that video as well. The Van Winkle Rye finished way up there in the upper seats. So I also think it's important to note when a ordinary bourbon that you can find on the shelves, or a craft bourbon, finishes exceptionally well, and is up against the $1,500 to $2,000 highly allocated products. So I think it's as important to show how an everyday bourbon can fare up against the beasts of the allocated world as it is to show how good something tastes. So that being said, here is my initial tasting of what we would later learn is Kentucky Tea Batch from Booker's. Take a look. Now, as you may recall, I was tasting a lot, and as I said in the video, as I was live streaming, it's sometimes difficult to taste that many and talk to a camera. So for the setup of the first round, I had a camera overhead where I wrote my notes, and I obviously was very, very high on this one when I first tasted it, so that we'd later learn, of course, it's the Booker's Kentucky Tea Batch. But the one thing I noted was it was incredibly, incredibly spicy, like some cardamom. So it was going down that it was going down that baking spice round, which can really stand out in a blind tasting. Now, that high score and how I felt about it propelled it to the finals. So here we are with the finals. Take a look here. Glass E. Glass E, really spicy. I love this toasted pine nut. Some cardamom in there. So after I taste after I go through this round, I go through all this scoring, tallying, and we're combining 3 scores of 3 different tastings here. And this is my reaction when I see when I see the results. And we're kind of computing it, and I'm looking at these results. I'm like, wow, we have 2 really major upsets in here. Take a look at this. Whoa. This might be a big upset, folks. Holy smokes. At number 1, 96 points was Weller. And the one product that you can probably get is coming in at 6 at the Kentucky Tea Batch, the Booker's. So obviously this has been edited down, right? That was a 3-hour recording, a 3-hour live stream. And most people don't have time for that. Heck, most people don't even have time for an 8-minute video. But what I failed to mention in that was that the scoring was so tight between 1 through 6 that at number 6, was a rounded up like 94 points. So it was a 94 points. William LaRue Weller won it by 96 points after 3 tastings. So that gives you an idea of how close Booker's was to the William LaRue Weller that won it. It's also worth pointing out that Booker's was really close, really close to beating Michter's 20-year-old, Old Fitzgerald 19-year, George T. Stagg from Buffalo Trace Antique Collection, which came in at 3rd, and the Jack Daniel's Small Batch Coy Hill. So those are the ones that came ahead of it. So that was 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 if you count William LaRue Weller. But here are some big names that it did beat. It did beat Old Fitzgerald's 17-year, which came in at 13. It beat a Smoke Wagon Uncut Unfiltered, a very popular batch, in 163-6, which came in at 16. It beat Four Roses Limited Edition Small Batch, which came in at 8, and Stagg, formerly Stagg Jr., which came in at 7. I know I'm not going in order here. It beat all the Larceny barrel proofs, all the Elijah Craig barrel proofs. It beat... let me find some other big names here that it beat. It beat the Willet 8-year black bottle, the weeded bourbon. Yeah, go find that for $90, which is what you can find Booker's for. It ain't happening. Let's see if there's any other big names. And of course, I mentioned this previously, but it did beat Van Winkle Rye, which that Van Winkle Rye, the 13-year, which goes for a boatload of money. Yeah, that came in at number 78. So a lot of things beat that. And of course, the Pappy Van Winkle grouping did not make the list other than that. So that's important. It's as important to point out how close it was to how many things that it beat out. So there you have it. That was kind of like an edited version of how I concluded Booker's to be the best available bourbon of 2022. Now, if you'd like to see the entire tasting, if you have 3.5 hours, feel free to use the fast forward button. I've got a link to that live stream in the description. I also have a link to the list of the top 100 in the description. And stay tuned for more blind tastings from me that are, like this. Like, I don't know what I'm tasting. So it's just me and a camera and a pen, and I'm just doing my best to break things down. But please feel free to click the like button, become a subscriber. Lots of great things coming in 2023, and I hope you're there with me for it all. Cheers, y'all. Be safe.